Hey everybody, so I wanted to make a video about my experience with the goddess Hecate. So I was going through a divorce, which had been a long time coming. And it was one of those things where it was working for my ex-husband. Like, you know, I took care of the kids, I took care of the house, I did all the stuff he didn't want to do, you know, and he is not one of those people that needs, like, well, maybe he does, but he doesn't really know how, I guess, to have, like, a deep, spiritual, respectful relationship with another person if they disagree with him. You know, like, he kind of tends to surround himself by people who either A, completely agree with him, or B, you know, aren't going to tell him that they don't agree. And that was me, to be fair. I was in the second group until I just had allowed that to kind of disintegrate the whole relationship. Well, anyway, just a backstory where obviously, you know, expectedly he would be upset because he's just like, you know, where is my housekeeper? Who's going to watch the kids? I don't want to pay child support, you know, like all those things, because we've been married like almost 14 years. And, or no, we had been married 14 years. So it disrupted his schedule, and he was upset, and he was definitely taking it out on me. Obviously, you know, part of the reason why I wanted a divorce is because he was kind of a immature and vengeful type of person, and now all that energy was directed at me. Usually it wasn't directed at me, but now it was being directed at me, and he was using the most painful way possible, which was through my kids. And so I was in a lot of pain and stress. And at this point, I was listening to astrology. And I had been listening. Well, maybe not. Maybe I hadn't been listening for very long. I don't really remember. I've been interested in astrology, like, since I was a little girl, but during my marriage, I was very devout. I was Southern Baptist, and then I was Catholic at the end of it, and so, I know, that's a different video, if you guys ever wanted to hear that, but I was, you know, I'd been grappling with Catholicism for a while, because I was like, you know, I felt abused to a large degree in my marriage, and I felt that the Catholic Church kind of taught that, you know, people, I'm not saying women, like men or women, like if they are married to someone who, whoa, I'm so sorry, is absolutely okay with having a predator-prey almost relationship, more like parasite-host, you know, sort of relationship with, you know, a person who's really not doing the work to be, you know, a good person, and then another person who is, and so that person benefits from this, you know, never-ending font of, like, giving and love and support and understanding and forgiveness, and, you know, all of the qualities that Christians, you know, put forth as, like, this is what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be graceful and loving and giving and, you know, forgiving, compassionate. And I kind of felt like I was striving to be all those things because, you know, I don't half-heartedly do religion. Like, if I am a part of something, it's because I'm really working it out for myself, if I believe it or not. And, you know, I was getting to the point where I just did not feel like that worked, you know. And so I was listening to other things. I liked astrology because it kind of gave me comfort that, you know, because I still believed in God, you know, and I don't have any problem with Jesus. Like, I think he was an amazing person. You know, this is just personal belief, not like gnosis. Like, nothing told me anything, you know, so I'm not trying to influence belief at all. I'm just trying to explain where I was coming from. You know, I still believed in God. I still believed in a divine creator. And I liked astrology because I could, you know, I could see that a divine creator could have, I mean, the Bible even says in Genesis that he created the heavens and the stars and stuff as signs and for seasons. And I think there's a little bit of an argument for, I think there's a big argument for astrology in the Bible. So take that, you know, all you out there hollering. But I'm really serious, though, as a person who is a very, very devout Christian. I believe that there's definitely a case for astrology in the Bible, and that not only is it not ungodly, but that God designed, like, us and the universe for astrology, for the signs, for all of this. Anyway, I digress. But, you know, do your research. Just do your research. But anywho, so I start listening to astrology, and it just, you know, it kind of filled in some blanks, made some sense. You know, I've always loved languages and archetypes, and, you know, it just really, really appealed to the way my mind works. Well, anyway, fast forward. I'd been studying astrology for a while, or listening to anyone and everyone. And at that time, and there still is, Lori Lothian. She is an astrologer that you can find on YouTube. I'm not sure if that's her name, if she just goes by her name, but I'm sure you'll find her if you want to. Well, anyway, I was listening to one of her videos, and I had been feeling this energy. Like, I couldn't explain it, but it was just, you know, it wasn't oppressive. It was just very noticeable, you know, almost like something's trying to get your attention. Something is begging to get your attention. And I was just like, what is going on? What's going on? And I don't know. I was listening to that video, and something was going on with, I think Mercury was conjunct Hecate or something. And I'd never heard of Hecate at all. And so I didn't know what that was. But I, you know, this is how the spirit world works. This is really just, it's so small and so big at the same time. Every spiritual truth that I've ever really known and really known to be true was so paradoxical. So paradoxical. And so in this way, the paradox was, you know, when you're really wanting something to happen, sometimes nothing happens. It's not time for it. And then sometimes something is happening And it's so easy. Like, it seems like it's so hard when you want something to happen, but then when it's ready for something to happen, it's so easy. That's the paradox. I'll be right back. I got to get my iced coffee. So all of that paradox stuff, just to say, you know, when I found out that Mercury was conjunct Hecate, oh, here we go. I thought it was going to be a long time, but it's not. Just a sec. Please forgive me if I've already said this. So I just knew. The paradox stuff to say, I just knew that what the feeling that I was being called to notice was Mercury conjunct Hecate, and Hecate was trying to talk to me. I knew it. So I was like, okay, you know, what does this mean? And I kind of did a little research, like, who is Hecate? Oh, goddess of witchcraft. Interesting. You know, wow. Why would she want to hang out with me? Because I was always pretty your mainstream preppy girl. You know, I loved Clueless. I loved Cher. I loved Barbie. You know, my favorite color is pink. Like, yes. So yeah, I had never been like emo or goth, or, you know, the closest thing I'd ever been into anything kind of witchcrafty about was I was into astrology and I loved fairies. You know, and that's about where it ended. And you know, I don't have that story like, oh, I always wanted to be a witch. Like, no, it never occurred to me, or even like drew me in. I remember when my little girl was just so tiny, and I asked her who her favorite Disney princess is, or no, she said she wanted to be a witch for Halloween, and my mom got her like a cute little outfit, and you know, a pretty little witch, and she was like, no, I want a black hat, I want to, you know, like, she wanted the dark witch. And then another thing, we were at the beach one year, and she was in the waves, and we never even saw this movie. I guess she'd just seen a trailer, and she was like, I am Maleficent, you know. And I remember being like, what's happening with my little girl? Because, you know, I had never embodied like a dark feminine energy, never really claimed any of my own power. Now, I would have said, you know, yeah, I've got a lot of self-discipline. I did. But as far as like just my own power, like, I really didn't even have a point of reference for that. So anyway, I'm just explaining how like out of the box this whole thing was. So I'm researching Hecate. I am feeling her pull on me. Like, the whole time I'm feeling her presence. And that's a very hard thing to describe, except for, like, if your mom is in the house, if your mom's sitting on the couch, even if you're not talking, like, you know she's there. And then when she's gone, you know she's gone, you know. And I would say with the spirit realm, there's times when you know that there's a spirit there. See, all this stuff, I guess, makes me a witch because of talking about this and stuff like that. Like, that's our word for it right now in our day and time. But it's like, I don't have any choice. Like, once you experience this, you can't just gaslight yourself and say, this didn't happen, I didn't experience this, you know. Anyway, I'm so sorry that I am a rambler. I just am. So if you can't handle it, we're not meant to be. So yeah, what ends up happening is I start researching Hecate. I definitely know that she's with me. I learn about how she was there. Finally, what I figured out, like, why she would come to me was probably two reasons. One, I was starting to become aware of my own feminine power, or my own power as a person. Like, I'm not saying masculines might also, Hecate might come to them, when they're really starting to reclaim their personal power, is really what I should have said. And so there was that, and I was also being really kind of unrightfully abused and maligned by my ex-husband, and just really suffering, like really being caused to suffer by this being kind of taken out and sent through the channels of my children, which were and are like the most important things in my whole life. So I think she came to me during that time because, if you'll notice, and she's the goddess of the Crossroads also. And I was definitely at a crossroads of, this has never happened to me before. What do I do? Where is my power? How do I claim my power? Whatever. And women, especially females who are oppressed, being cursed and oppressed and like beat down, and that's who she accompanies. Well, and it's funny because she accompanied Persephone, and even as a child I heard that myth, and I think because my mom was so enmeshed with me, I always thought that the myth of Persephone and Demeter were so like us. And when my experience of getting married was kind of like Persephone and Hades, so that's interesting. So file that in there, is I did always identify as a Persephone archetype, and Hecate, her energy, her spirit, like accompanies the Persephone archetype. So like file that in your Hecate file, because in researching her, I found so many people who were like, I wanted to work with Hecate, but she didn't come to me, like she didn't choose me. And a lot of those people were, strong, powerful, very integrated with their dark energy. And what I mean by their dark energy is like shadow. Like, they seem like not scared of shadow work, like, let's go full on, and Hecate, come and hang out with me and help me with the shadow work, like maybe, and like confusion, and almost like even people who feel like they were like, what do you want to say, like castigated by her, like, don't come to me, don't mess with me, you can't handle me, like, like, you just can't handle this, and so, which made it even more mind-blowing for me. Why would she come to me, because I'm not there, and I think that's the specific reason. Like, this goes under the unverified personal gnosis. I believe Hecate, coming from my experience, she comes to people at a crossroads, and the crossroads is the initiation into reclaiming your own personal power. And when you're at a crossroads like that, or also when you are being oppressed, when you're being oppressed by other beings, I believe she accompanies those who are being unrightfully and unmercifully oppressed. And I was both of those people at that time. So that's why I think Hecate comes to you. Now, that was a hard time. She was around. Oh, I got to tell you another thing I almost forgot to say. So this was, after the initial intensity of that beginning point. And when I started to sort of, consciously say, okay, well, I think I'm a witch, and I'm going to learn more about witchcraft, and I'm going to go down that path because, yeah, I see a lot of truth in it, a lot of importance in, and witchcraft for me is using your own power to manifest your own values, like what you desire to happen in life, using your power to manifest. Like, that's witchcraft to me. Like, if that's not your definition of witchcraft, if your definition of witchcraft is like, oh, you're casting spells on people to make bad things happen, like, honey, I've got way better things to do than to mess with other people. I don't want to mess with other people. I don't even want to mess with my enemies. Like, do I want them to change and stop being my enemies? Yes. Do I want to, bring down blights and plagues upon them in order for that to happen? No. I want them to want to be good people, and just like I did. I don't want, the school bully to hold somebody up to a wall and make them do the right thing. I want people to want to do the right thing out of the goodness of their heart, but that's not anything you or I can control. So I just leave that alone, and I just try to use my own power to manifest what I do focus on and what I do love, because I feel like that's a higher vibration anyway. So one more cool thing with Hecate is I was walking around my yard and I saw this little ripped piece of paper. Mind you, I've not told anybody about Hecate, like no one. Because no one would even understand, or they would be so severely opposed to it that it would cause a major ruckus in my life. So I'm walking the perimeter of my house and I see this little piece of paper, and it's a torn up piece of paper, and it says, it's like a table of contents type of thing, or like the back of the book where, I forget what that's called, like the back of the book where it says, what page, what topic is on. And you guys, I kid you not, this torn out piece of paper in a book said Hecate. It also included Fairy Queen. I have no idea what this book was or where it came from, but this happened to me. And I knew that it was her just continuing to be like, I'm here. I'm here. Like, you're not tripping. Like, I'm here. And I am not saying that it's not appropriate to do the what do they call, like the special dinners that some of her devotees do for her, or any other practice. Like, I'm pretty, it would make sense to me that she would and can say different things to different people, and people's, personal experience is different. But I've never felt like I could handle those outward systematic ways of devotion, I've never felt like I could handle that, because I have a tendency towards scrupulosity. And after being a Christian and a Catholic, it is very important for my spiritual health to not be a part of, any sort of rite or act or of worship or anything like that is scrupulous in nature. Like, you got to have this exact thing, you got to do it at this exact time, you got to do this and this and this. Like, I can't do that, and I definitely cannot do it on a regular basis. So that was out, because my ability to do that was totally maxed out already through Christianity. So I'm just throwing that out there, that I never did that, and still that happened to me. Now, I don't feel like I do have like this really ongoing, super close relationship with Hecate. I'm just kind of, I'm open to what the plan is for me. If she needs to be close to me and talking to me, like, I'm open to that. But if not, and someone else does, or I just need to be taking a break in my, earth life for a while and just me, it's okay too. I don't really know. Like, I'm not actively doing the things. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So, yeah, that's my experience with Hecate.